All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Hounds podcast, a podcast literally just about axes. And I am Leaf Backus, also here with Chris Killinger, as you will hear. And we're thinking of doing our second episode to So You Want to Collect Axes. And like the first one, this is kind of like a breeze through of topics. As we continue the podcast, it's probably going to get a lot more detailed on things. And in the last podcast, we talked briefly about why we do what we do and why we think the axe deserves a special place in the tool lineup. Certainly on top of a hill of its own, and trying not to sound too scripted, but you know, the topic of this segment is why we collect, personal stories and in our future with axes. And if Chris wants to maybe start with that, why do you collect axes, Chris?
So I don't know. A lot of it's just the romance on the vintage axes, I guess. I collect new axes too, so it's not all that. But I think, like we touched in the last episode, in the beginning, it was a cheap hobby for me. Now I've gotten a little older and more established. Some of my collections more expensive, and obviously the price of axes has gone up tremendously. So it's kind of a game now. You gotta play the game to get the stuff you want. But
which is definitely what we're going to delve into as we go on.
Yeah. But yeah, it's there's so much you can do with an axe that, you know, shines above all the rest of the tools. You know, like you buy a saw and collect saws, which is cool, but all they do is saw. You can saw wood or logs or whatever, rip or cut, but after that, that's it. That's all they do. You know, with an axe, you could pretty much build a whole house with one if you had enough ambition.
You could literally build a house with it if you had to. Yep.
It wouldn't you wouldn't need any other tool. I mean, it'd be a rough house, but certainly could be done. So I think that's, for me, it's just a very, very romantic, versatile tool.
And I'm probably on the same page with that. As we say in the last podcast, there's a bit of romanticism with the axe. It's iconic. It's our first compound tool. I mean, it's literally built the civilization of which we stand. You know, and everything's powered nowadays, but an axe is a chance to step back in history and get a taste of how life was really, really like, I think, and how hard the people were that swung them for a living, not just as a hobby or a, you know, as a part-time job or something like that, but used them all day, every day, relied on them. And in a preceding podcast, we're going to cover some of those people that really stand above others. And an example of that would be Dick Preineke, you know, and the other woodcraft legends, Kephart, Jaeger, and those guys. And but that's a future podcast. So with personal stories, yeah, like I said, I'm with Chris. Axes just bring me back to being young as well, being around a lot of these woodsmen that I grew up around at our fishing game club. These are older generation that were still had their hands on an axe to some respect to do things in life, but you know, obviously we're power tooled as well. And I see, you know, I got old images that Chris has seen, and if anybody follows the social networks, I got old pictures of my grandfather swinging an axe at camp, which really, I got to say, you've seen those black and whites that I got. It's just one of those. It's one of those things that really just kicked me into high gear too. Just getting back into doing woodcraft stuff and bushcraft. That was one of those things that really kicked me into axes, and you know, now we're here, and it's cost us both a lot of money.
Yeah, you should post those pictures up on our Instagram.
You know what? That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Instagram there's an Axe Hounds podcast Instagram now, in case you guys don't know.
That is a perfect plug. I didn't even occur to me to say that.
Yeah, makes perfect sense for something like this, because obviously this video will be on YouTube eventually. But if you're just listening as a podcast and we reference stuff, we'll try to put that on our Instagram so you have somewhere to go see what we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's as it sounds, Axe Hounds, AXEHOUNDS. Easy to find. And as we have personal stories and we're axe collectors, it's one of those things. We can give you our stories. Everybody has their own, but what's your end game, Chris? What happens?
I don't know. You know, it's actually unknown at this point. It's changed and evolved a lot over the years. You know, in the beginning, I just bought what I could, not knowing anything. And then as you learn, then you start looking for specific axes and you know what not to buy. You know, I went from I just bought what I could to buying everything to buying what I wanted, because you get
the same thing.
Yeah, you get an excess. I mean, there's only so many Michigan pattern axes you can keep. You know, it's just ridiculous. So, I've scaled back my collection quite a bit because of the axe class. So a lot of my extra heads went to those classes. And now what I have left is what I would consider mostly premium stuff. There's very few just run-of-the-mill axes, unless they're like mint. Like I have a brand new Kelly Perfect Michigan pattern. You know, you wouldn't keep a beat-up one because there's literally thousands of them. But you know, I have a brand new one with the original handle and original condition. You know, I'll keep that. Where does it go from here? You know, at this point, like I've said before, I'm a collector, so I'm gonna keep collecting. Obviously, if I see stuff in the wild, I will pick it up. I'm not done buying by any means. If one or two here or there need to be sold to help keep the momentum going, then I'll definitely do that. But I'm not trying to sell anything in particular. And then I want to get my collection to a point where everything is hung and sharp and ready to use if I want to use it. And then, you know, hopefully when I'm older, then the value of them will go up, and maybe when I retire, I'll sell off the lot. I mean, you know, I don't really have an exit plan or anything like that. It's just get what I can and display some of it and use some of it and cherish it.
And the reason that I bring that up, because Chris and I have had a couple loose discussions about that in the last couple of weeks of where you see collections end up or where they're heading to, and some personal stories that I know of secondhand, and then you see them firsthand. And sometimes a lot of these things, I don't know, anybody who does any sort of picking, if you're a junker, like I go out junking or you do picking or stuff like that, you always run into people who pass away and leave these giant collections of stuff to kids or burden their wife with it. And it's not, and it's, it feels like it more often ends in disaster. The one kid comes in and sells the whole lot for dirt cheap to somebody who the same process is going to happen again. Or they're all sold off for pennies and somebody rips off somebody. I could give stories, but I'll just pass over that. But I don't want in my life. I pray that my son or my daughter is really interested in them. By the time it's something that I can't deal with them anymore, and they keep them, and I see that they're going to be taken care of. But if they're not, I think that's something I'd proactively look at. I would hope by then that there's some tool museum, maybe. Yeah. Something somewhere that that they're gonna like. I don't know if there could be an axe museum I know Mike Miller's looking in that direction. I think it's a really good idea.
He could totally open one.
He could open one himself, yeah, but maybe something that. But I pray the kids are interested, and in my, my estate isn't handled like just somebody comes in and buys them all for a grand, and then, well, they'll never be, the same thing will happen in another 80 years.
Well,
But
it brings up a good point, and it's going to tie into later in our podcast. But this is another reason to involve your spouse and your children if you have children.
Actually, if you want, we're rolling right into that now. So go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so you gotta involve your spouse and your children. If you're first off, if your spouse is not on board with this, you're gonna have a hard time with it. Really. She doesn't have to be an expert, but she needs to know and have a clue for in case something did happen to you. Now she's left with medical bills and the burden of handling these things, and you don't want her selling off the Black Raven for $25 because she didn't know. I see guys. The common thing is, I hope my wife never finds out what I really paid for it or something like that. That's nonsense. You can't do that. You need your wife. It'd be no different than your guns.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we're on the same plane. It's like people do the same thing with guns, but take the axes just as seriously, because in many cases their values maybe not as high as some real collector pieces, but
right. But
your average expensive rifle, well, that's a Kelly registered in pristine condition. You know what I mean?
It could mean a difference between her being able to bury you.
Yeah.
I mean, so you gotta involve your spouse, just so that there's somebody else on board that knows, hey, what do I do? Where do I go from here? He's amassed this collection over years. I know it's worth something. Instead of them just having a freaking yard sale and anybody that walks by buys that axe, and they may not even know what it is. They're just going to buy it for an axe. So that's important. Getting your children involved is it's important in so many ways. I mean, not only for the aspect of a child shouldn't just be brought up with a TV and a video game.
Right,
they
right.
need hands-on experience with real life things, but to help them appreciate what is there, so that maybe someday they can take over the collection, and appreciate what you have, and appreciate that what you've built up for them over the years. So maybe they don't want to keep them, but they'll at least have an idea what the things are worth, or at least know that they're worth something. Instead of, I have a personal experience where I saw an estate sold off.
Yeah.
It's just it almost made you cry. Like
Yeah.
the amount of stuff that was just sold at a yard sale because the children, one, didn't know anything about it. They just knew that, hey, I need to get this money, and the other one just didn't have the time to deal with it. So it was insane. I mean, if they had taken their time and learned about what they were selling, they would have gotten a lot more money. And money's not the only thing here, but it's just, why leave it on the table like that? Why just sell it off? It's great for a guy like you or me walking up to a yard sale and there's a cheap axe.
It would be, but too, there's a guilt feeling if it's something, I don't know. I've had some good deals, but then again, at the same point, you don't want to pay a ridiculous price for things either. But it would be lucky if somebody like you and I got them. That's not always the case.
No.
And I remember I spoke to one farmer. We had a sale out in the back roads, and he had sold a bunch of stuff at the beginning of the summer. This was just last summer. And I said, he had several buildings, and I asked, "You got any axes floating around?" And he goes, "No, I had a guy at the beginning of the summer, made a big pile of everything I had and laughed all the way out the door." I said, I won't ask you how much you took off him for it, but I can tell you right now, the things I bought off him, the guy probably got a pile of axes from that farm going back how many decades for a penny. for pennies. So, and you know, it's like, and I don't know who it was, you know, so it is what it is. It happens, you know.
But get your spouse involved. I mean, you know, you got to build. I'm not going to get into marriage counseling, but if there's problems, if there's friction there between, you need to figure out why and get to the bottom of that. You know, maybe it's legit, but
Yeah, there's things Chris and I talk every day, and you know, one thing I hate seeing, well, I hate seeing it's disturbing to see is how guys have to hide everything they do from their wives. I find that really weird. You know, I've never been I've never been checked by my wife because I spent $15 on a Connie head.
right.
It's some it like it it's never ever come up
Yeah.
before. It's like, oh, what'd you find? You know what I mean? I get maybe we're lucky in that respect, but Chris and I, you know, we're both makers. We sell. We see a lot of weird things where guys have to hide what they buy and collect from. Like, it's just weird to me. I would say if that's a problem, address it. You know? Yeah.
Just be upfront with your spouse and be like, look, this is my passion, and you know, I work hard for my money, and if I can't, you know, maybe we come up with a budget or something. Come up with a plan. You know,
Sure.
just
There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
get on board with each other. You know, my wife talks me into more purchases than I would probably do. You know, sometimes on the larger items, I'm a little uncomfortable, and you know, she'll be my voice of reason, and she'll be like, you know, it's a Black Raven. You're here in person, holding it in your hand. You know, why would you not buy it?
Yeah, you got a good deal on it too, I think.
Well, yeah, but still, it was still a big
Still,
chunk of change.
yep, still was. Yep.
You're thinking, you know, I don't know, should I really spend this much? You know, what's, do I really need it? You know, but in the end, it all works out. And I always look at my collection as a whole. So even if it was full retail, you know, it still would have been a possibility. But I guess the point is like, you know, that's how supportive my wife is towards this. I mean, a lot of you guys that are in the Axe Hounds Facebook group know my wife. You know, she's constantly in there, bantering with the guys and stuff because you know she supports this. You know, and the axe thing is a big part of my life. You know, between the Facebook group, stuff I make out of leather, the axe class, the opportunities that I've had over the last few years because of the axes, you know, so she's a big supporter of it. And honestly, I think that's probably one of the most important things.
You know, I just wrote a note down because I remember we had a conversation about it a while ago. When I first seen somebody mention it, I don't remember who, I'm like, that's a little extreme. But, you know, as we dig into this stuff, it kind of makes a lot more sense is keeping a running inventory of your collection.
Yeah.
On paper. Yeah, I would laugh at it a while ago, but now that you know I've got some money in these boxes behind me and on the wall, like, well, you know, it's actually not a bad idea, you know, because let's say I get robbed or the house burns, you know, that's my tools, a collection of assets, and I'd be foolish if I didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to have a log of what you have. I know vintage axe work is like, Roy is insane. He has a complete spreadsheet
Oh,
of
really?
every axe he owns.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's insane. He's got like 500 axes or something, and he knows they're all numbered. He knows exactly what he has at any given time.
That's smart. Well, when we have Roy on, that's something we could definitely talk about.
Yeah.
It's a smart idea. Well, he's with a business too, so obviously it's already a good idea. But you know, for personal collectors like us,
it's a good idea for your insurance. I don't know because I don't know. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I think video is as good as something written on paper.
Sure,
if not better. Now, at one point, I did have quite a bit of my collection on YouTube, but I've taken a lot of those videos down, so that wouldn't 100% be the best method for me. But yeah, a running tab of what you got, and then especially maybe what you paid for it, so that if something in estimated value, and then if something did happen to you, your kids or your spouse or whatever could reference.
Yep, exactly. All right. So, collections, what we're doing with it and all that. So I thought we'd talk about, well, how do you get one going in the first place? What steps does Chris and Leaf take to find heads? And with that, I think we're at a point now with the internet. There are no real secrets. Everybody's out there. Everybody's looking. We can give you a few hints, and it really doesn't bother me to give up ways that I do things because I'm a patient person, and in the end, I really don't think it makes much of an impact. If I do something that's maybe a little bit more clever than somebody else, here, take it to your region, see if you can make it work for you, and it's just get more axes in the hands that people should have them. You know what I mean?
Right.
I did break down a little bit, maybe steer the conversation, but the top of my list was straight up a full retail buy for collection. I can take a couple different forms, but I imagine a lot of us would see like buying a new axe or buying an old one from an antique dealer, or you get a third option. You get somebody who's like Roy, who does it. He does a full restoration, and therefore then you buy it at retail. I guess that's pretty straightforward. I mean, with antique, go ahead.
I just have a side thought on that.
Go ahead, absolutely.
Like if you were to buy a restored axe from an average Joe, in my mind, the value isn't as high as if you bought an axe from a vintage axe works. So when you look at Roy's work, and there's other guys out there, I'm not going to name them all off, but he's the one that stands out in mind. Plus, I'm good friends with him. So
yeah, Roy's a good example, I think, for a lot of these discussions. Yeah.
When you see Roy's work, it's unique and it stands out, and it's not something everyone can do. So I would be more happy to spend my money on a vintage axe works than I would just an average Joe's restored axe. A lot of times I might look at one, and if it's something I need in my collection, whether the guy might have done an excellent job hanging it and all that, but I might ask him to cut the handle off just to ship it to me.
I've done the same thing. Like, I'm going to take the handle out anyway, so if you could do me a favor.
You feel bad about it in a way, but in the other way, it's like, well, no, I mean, I appreciate what you did, but I want to make it my own. It's just one of those things. So I don't think there's anything wrong with buying a brand new axe. I own lots of them. I think it's great, especially with Council Tool, with the direction they're going. I own several of their axes. I think it's important to support that. You may not agree with everything they do, but you certainly are going to agree with something. So you should at least support that. Buy something from them, keep them rolling. And they have many options. I mean, you don't have to spend a ton of money. Their new sport utility line is a fantastic idea. I mean, they changed a couple things to make the axes a little better, and they're still affordable, like $50 and under.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer buy right there.
Right, and then there's the transfers. I don't think there's anything wrong with owning that stuff. I own several of them. I've owned several of the small forest axes over the years.
I've owned a couple. Yep.
I don't keep them for some reason.
Neither did I. Yeah.
I get rid of them, but I wouldn't be hesitant to buy another one. It's not a bad axe, but like I have one of their hewing hatchets.
I'd like one of their carving axes. That's on my that's on my list.
I actually took that thing out as my main user on an outing one night, one weekend, and used it exclusively. It's a great axe. Plus want to carve a bowl.
Yeah.
Right there. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with buying brand new axes. That could be your thing. I'm going to collect new manufactured stuff, and we're so fortunate to have what we have available to us. There's a couple Swedish brands, there's a couple USA brands. There's a lot of variety. Snow and Neely, obviously, they do a fantastic job, and the price points are insane for what you get. I mean, it's just a very high valued axe. And then, like I was saying, people like Roy, if there's an axe that you see and you appreciate that person's work, then spend the money, support that maker. You know, even though I could do it, doesn't mean that I have to. You know what I'm saying? There's a level of appreciation for other people's work.
And with retail, I think antiques and picking start to merge into themselves, and this is how I get most of my stuff. I do get some stuff online, excuse me. But I've, for the last couple summers, I've been really lucky to be in the right places at the right time. Myself and Scott from the group have a relationship with a guy who runs a corner down here, and he holds axes for us now. They don't even make it out to his tables, which is nice. So I guarantee. Go ahead.
That's key right there.
Yeah,
is building relationships with people you frequent. Tell them what you're looking for. Tell them you'll pay their price if it's reasonable and in good condition.
Yeah, and he's very reasonable with price, but he's also reasonable in price. I'd say he's favorable in price because what Scott and I get off of him is below a good price. You know what I mean? He does really well, but we always come back. We always buy from him, and that's a key right there. And like I know I'll be good for a few heads this summer just by driving by and stopping. But like so, for instance, with picking, like this year, I'm going to try to get a little more aggressive. So I hit the yard sales, the when you have the town organized garage sales is a good time. And a couple of hints with that is you're less likely to find axes driving through a subdivision that's 20 years old or less. But if you drive through old neighborhoods that went, in the same part of town or something, you're always likely to find older stuff. You start there, you finish. Because when you drive through the subdivisions, I'll tell you what, every garage sale is the same thing. It's seasonal tools and mostly babies' clothes. Baby clothes. Yeah. And you rarely find things that you want, but you get off the path, you get to the old neighborhoods, and you can get really lucky really quick. And the other part of it for me is, and you could probably pick up after this, be aggressive. I ask, even if there's an old garage and I don't see it sitting on a table or something, you got to lose that, and you just go, hey, do you got any axes floating around the barn? Or if they're already selling, guess what? They're in a selling mood.
Yep.
And I tell you what, you can find stuff, and it does work. And if you got anything you want to say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the most important part of any of that is you have to ask. You cannot just assume they don't have it, because most people, the average person, does not think that axes are worth anything.
Yep.
If they have a broken handle, they think it's trash. So you have to ask. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a yard sale, scoured the whole thing, nothing, walked up to the owners and said, hey, do you happen to have any axes? And they're like, yeah, back here in the barn, I have this junk one.
Absolutely.
You see it, the thing that's junk is the handle.
Yeah.
People just don't understand it. It's literally the most important thing you can do when you're picking. The relationship thing, I used to have a guy that he used to bring in, I went there once a week, sometimes twice. And he goes to auctions. That's what he does. And he used to bring in axes for me every single week, 2 to 5 axes a week, and just set them behind the counter. And the reason he did that is because I bought everything. I didn't pick or choose. After a few years, I started picking and choosing. The guy stopped. He stopped bringing them in for me. So make that commitment. If you got to buy a Chinese axe for $2.50 or $3 to get the American-made Kelly Perfect for $7, it makes sense to buy the Chinese axe. Scrap it if you want. I mean, it's not a big deal. People get caught up in like, wow, I'm spending $2 on it. Well, you just bought a $25 axe for $7, so now you paid $10 for it, whatever. Mm-hmm. So build those relationships with those guys at the flea markets and the antique stores, guys and women. The women are a little tougher, I find, to get them to hold stuff back. I don't know why. They got like a first come first serve attitude. So, but hey, whatever. You still go in there and you smile and you thank them and be polite and build up those relationships.
Yeah, I one thing that I want to do this year is at my expense for $10, I can get 250 business cards made, and I'm going to slap on it, I buy axes. It's going to have my mobile phone number on it, and they can text me a picture directly of what they got. Because people who are doing collections and looking for things are doing that type of aggressively looking for it. So
Sure.
this isn't something new I'm doing. It's something I'm picking up. So when you go to an antique store that rolls through good merchandise, it's not just garbage all the time. Yeah, you're gonna pay more at an antique store. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, but um, giving them a card of which they put into a Rolodex of people who buy certain things, you'll find that these serious dealers will call you. And it's 2019. Chances are you could say, send me a pic, and it's going to show up on your phone. So that's something I'm going to try this year. So I'm going to make the business cards, and I'm gonna hit a few of my frequent haunts, and I'm also gonna, they may just throw them in the trash. But hey, if it maybe leads in 6 months to them whipping through the Rolodex because somebody put 5 axe heads in their shop,
Right.
I mean, a score for me. It's worth the $10 I spent in 250 business cards. Other people do it. Other collectors do it. Interior decorators do that with antique shows, all the antique dealers all the time. And when you're out and about, like I made a mental note. I had a lot of sales last spring through fall, a lot. I've got my wife hooked into, I call it junking and picking, but she's now enjoys doing the rounds on the weekends, hitting the sales. But I think of I think of maybe 12 places of which I went through their sale, and I can tell that picking is something they do a lot of. They
Right.
those people kind of stick out. That's the other type of person that I want to hand a card to. Like, how often do you see axes? If you want to make a little extra money, give me a call with a picture of what you got. They may throw you in your phone. It's just another way to be aggressive. And I think of a few times that we got, I'm in the Northeast. We got a lot of very old farms around here, and I've drove around with the wife and the kids in the car, and you see an old couple sitting out on the porch, and I've seen this many times. It's like, what's it hurt you to stop and check out a farm that's been sitting there for 200 years and just ask a question?
Yeah.
I collect old tools, mainly axes. Do you have, I have the chance of, a few of them laying around or something you'd be willing to sell? You'd be amazed how quickly people perk up for a quick buck of something they had no value in themselves. Um, or somebody may tell you to get the heck out of there. So,
Right.
but hey, you have, I just think of, how old some of these barns are up here. I can't, it hurts to think about what's sitting in the corner somewhere covered in dirt or dust, or, well, I just throw them in the corner. They've been over there since I was a kid, and who knows? You know what I mean? And that's the type of aggression I'm going to put on buying this year.
That's what you have to do now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not as easy as it used to be. And what you were just talking about, I would classify that as networking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's networking. Yeah.
It's very important to network. Everybody that I know, that personal, family, friends, they know I collect axes, and if they see an axe, chances are they're going to call me. So you just have to put it out there. You have to say, "Hey, I collect axes." It's a weird thing, but that's what I do. So people have fun with it. They'll call you up and say, "Hey, have you ever seen one of these? I just found it. How much you give me for it?" And, sometimes people just assume because you collected it's gold,
Mm-hmm.
and they want $1 million for it. And then other times people are like, just give me a couple bucks. I don't care.
I got my last Connie. We have a cabin up in Sacandaga Lake. There's an antique store that only opens seasonally in the spring up until early fall. But she's familiar with my face now. I've been coming through there for years. She has a box that have axes in it, and I think I'm pretty good for one a year out of there. But like the last score I had was a $15 Connie. I asked her what she wanted. She says 15 sound good. I'm not going to argue with her. It was a
No.
Kelly. It was a Kelly Perfect, or a Flynn Edge. Excuse me. That was a Kelly Flynn Edge, Connecticut, in perfect shape. Yeah, I'm
No
not gonna. No, like $15. I said I don't have a problem with that at all. Slapped it down and walked out. Yeah.
A lot of guys, they will not do that. They have to get something. They have to, no matter how good the deal is, they have to try and talk the people down. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're missing sales because of that.
Yeah.
Or purchases. What you're doing is insulting the person that's selling it to you. Now, if it's $100, okay, be realistic. If it's $100 and you know it's probably worth somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah, go ahead, bargain with them. You know, but if it's $15 and it's worth $100, don't tell them $5. Don't tell them. You're just going to piss them off, and then you know what? The next time one comes in, they're not going to call you.
Or they're not going to move with you on price. They're just that whole opportunity is now gone from you. Yeah.
A lot of flea market people have a very different mentality. Like the people that set up at flea markets, man, they are so unapproachable.
Yeah, they're their own breed of people.
It is insane. And when you walk up to the table and give them back, and it's hard for me. Like I struggle with it because I'm like, why are you such a pain in the butt? I mean, just like, can you just smile? Just, it's a beautiful day out. You know, all these people are buying all of your crap. You know, but they have such a bad attitude and they're so unapproachable. And a lot of times they'll say, I want $100 for it, and I'll sell that thing by the end of the day, no problem, for $100. And like, it's just not even an opportunity to negotiate. Yeah. So if you upset that guy even more, you're just done. You're done. Yep. He's gonna remember you, and the next time he's gonna have something for 50, and he's gonna tell you 100 because he just doesn't even want to deal with it. So you got to bite your tongue and smile and be realistic. If it's $15 and it's worth 100, spend $15. Don't be crazy.
Yep. And I think for the last of how you acquire heads, maybe we can breeze over the dreaded eBay website. Chris has got some strategy. I have strategy they're pretty much the same. And while eBay is not the used to be a really good source, it's not the best source anymore. No. But it still can be useful. And I think what do you call those sales?
Sleepers.
That's right. Yeah. Go ahead if you want. Yeah.
So eBay's a game now. It's just a game.
Yes, it is.
So you got to be willing to play the game, and in order to play the game, there's things you have to do. You have to be on eBay constantly. You have to know what's available and what's new. So there's a couple strategies I do. I have some notifications set up on my eBay, and anytime somebody posts a Norland for sale, my phone goes off. If there's another type of axe I'm looking for, that's the only one I have right now. Is because I'm making sure I have all the Norlands. Because you never know, there might be one more out there.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure I have all of them. So if there's another axe like a Kelly Register Connie, so I'll put those in. So anytime somebody makes a listing of that your notification goes off. Now the reason why you want to do this is there's some people that just want to put something on eBay for a buy now price and sell it really quick. They need the money. Mm-hmm. And you'll see something pop up for $50 that's worth $200. So if you don't have those notifications, you're at the mercy of chance. You just happen to pond it. But if you have the notification, you're the first one to see it. So do not hesitate. Know what the heck you're looking at. Because I've seen Norland saddle cruisers come up as a buy it now for $100. You know, people are probably thinking, well, I wouldn't pay that. Okay, well, you could sell it for $200. So you would pay it. Yeah. So you could double your money just by buying it. And I'm telling you, when I see stuff like that, I can't hit buy it now fast enough because I've hesitated before and it's been gone. So that's one of the games. You got to know what you're looking for, set up notifications for it. One of the other things is when I search a specific brand of axe, instead of just in one category, like it automatically defaults to whatever category that's most likely to be in. Mm-hmm. I back all the categories out and I search all categories, because sometimes people put things in categories they don't belong.
Yes.
That's one way. I know guys that do misspelled words. They'll play around with words and misspelled and find stuff that way. I don't do that. It's just like I don't have the time. There's so many ways you can misspell something. And then just like I was saying, being on eBay, Sunday afternoon, evening is a really good time, because it used to be people would list stuff on eBay so that it would end on Sunday evening when everybody was home. I don't think that's important anymore, because with your phone, you can be anywhere at any time and purchase something off of eBay.
Yep.
So it's still a popular time to search. I've found a lot of sleepers that way. And then the bid game, it's not fair, but it's how people bid now. It's called sniping. And, I hate doing it, because it's like, it seems unfair, but it happens to me all the time. So you either do it or
it's all part of playing the game now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's a shame that that's how we got to do it, but it's how you got to do it. So when you're looking at something and you're going to spend some realistic money, or some more than your average amount of money, and this has got to be a piece you want, this is going to be your Black Ravens or your Kelly Registers, or something that you want to add to your collection that's you're willing to pay a little bit more money for. You wait till the last 5 seconds and you give it all you got. Every penny you're willing to pay, you put that amount in at the last 5 seconds and hit submit, and pray somebody doesn't outbid you.
Yep.
And make sure that I've put in as much as $200 in that last 5 seconds, and was a little nervous. I didn't really want to spend $200 or whatever, and I've gotten outbidded, because somebody else is doing that. But
yep.
That's, I always refer to eBay. Somebody will say, "What's this worth?" I get that a lot with the New Orleans. What's this worth? I'm like, well, what's it selling for on eBay? You can't go by that. Well, why can't you? It's the most realistic value gathering information we have. It's literally what somebody is willing to pay for.
Yeah, it stinks. I get it, but guess what? It's a pill you have to swallow.
If you go on eBay and something's sold for $500, that's what it's worth, because somebody paid $500 for it. Will you have the same success? Probably not.
Yeah.
People get in bidding wars all the time. Stay away from that. If you're bidding on something, and no matter what you put in there, it goes higher and higher and higher, well, you're probably bidding against Mike Miller. You're not going to win. But that's a bidding war. You just stay out of the bidding wars.
Yeah, I don't involve myself with that. I don't even go that route anymore to get heads. Not that I don't go eBay. I just don't go that. I'm not going to bid up high. It's just I'm sure there's something that might come up, and I'm going for it. But
it's very rare for me to bid.
Yeah.
It's very rare. Usually everything I buy on eBay these days is to buy it now. Just because I know what it is. That's key. Know what it is. Know what you're looking for. If you're not, it's like finish axes. It's just something I've recently gotten into, and I don't know a lot about them. And you and I have talked about them. Just the prices are kind of high, and then you have to import them. So by the time you get a finished axe head over here, you're at $100.
Yep.
So I'm still educating myself on it, but a guy like Matthew Justice he's already educated himself. He knows what he's looking at, and he knows what it's worth. It's nice to just reach out to a guy like him and say, "Hey, this is what I'm looking at." And chances are he might even have what you want already in the States.
Yep.
But know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I have almost nothing to add to that eBay. Like I said, you do a little bit more than that than I do. But the only thing I can put focus on is surprisingly, people will list axes under categories you wouldn't expect. or under, a title of the sale search term that it wouldn't click. Like, to give one up, I would say like camping lot. It wouldn't
Yep.
occur to you like, oh, sleeping bags and a bunch of junk. You just don't think about, yeah. You might be surprised at cutting tools that show up in a camping lot for some lady that runs her eBay store and just doesn't care. The axe may not get its own listing. It may get lumped in with something else. And a surprising amount of axes you can find that crop up under camping. Like, I know I'm giving it away, but like somebody else is already doing it, so don't worry.
Sure.
But that's that's
you
just
thought about it. Somebody already else has
already.
too.
10 other guys have already done it. So yeah, we're not breaking new bread here with that for sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I want to add one more thing. The market's hot and cold, guys.
Oh yeah.
Pay attention to it. If you go on and you're looking for, and I always go back to New Orleans because it's literally it's a roller coaster with New Orleans. If you're on there and everything seems high, wait a couple months, then come back and look for the piece you're looking for. I guarantee it's going to come down. Yep. Especially if somebody just put a video out on something, don't run to eBay. Like, it's too late. It's too late.
Yeah, that's following trends. That might be a good topic to finish off. That you made a good point. Is when your said YouTube star does an axe review or something like that, or mentions a vintage head, don't even go to eBay. Just I just stay off of it for a couple months, because you can watch in action how quickly not to degrade anybody, how quickly fanboys can log on to eBay and start bidding up and buying up any particular brand or head or something like that. You can watch it in real time, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I bet you after this podcast,
some eBay search terms are going to get changed, but you know what? I'm not a greedy jerk, and I am patient. I think you have to be. Once you start really, narrowing down your collection, but axes are going to be out there, and they're going to pop up. So I'm not too worried about that.
Right.
And I was going to direct this podcast into, so now you have some pieces. What are you going to do with them? And I think I'll reiterate that with something that, we were both talking about earlier, is inventorying your collection, what you paid for it and its estimated value. But going any further at that, it's how you care, restore, use, and all that. And I think that's a good topic for a whole nother podcast. Yep. We just put 50 minutes on this. And I think, I've been writing episode lists out for you guys. And like, I'm already ahead of myself now. So I think we'll end it with that. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, you and I have talked about how the discussion on this hobby is endless. And I don't think we'll ever. I can't imagine running out of topics for podcasts.
No, not especially if we're with that and bringing on guests, which I think we're gonna work on very soon. Right. And it's just gonna get more exciting. So. Thanks everybody for downloading the second podcast here, and please, find us, like us, share the podcast. Social networking is key. Please post to your Facebook pages, share it in groups. Find us on Instagram. You can find us personally in the Axe Hounds group, but the Axe Hounds podcast is for everybody in this community. It's not just the Facebook group. So
I want to add a couple things too. I want to say thank you to everyone that's personally reached out to us.
Yes.
Like, the amount of personal messages that I've gotten telling us that we've done a great job and they're looking forward to the next episode. We appreciate that 100%.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if there wasn't any, I would probably be like, let's just scrap this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, that was a bad idea.
Skip it. Yeah, and I mean, we don't even know how far this is reaching. We have to put a couple more podcasts in to start getting, till I start getting the statistics from the place that I'm hosting the podcast through. But that should be interesting to find out either. But we're on Google now. We're on Apple. I got approved for Apple Podcasts, so you can find us on iTunes. I'm in the Google Podcast app. I got us in there. So any podcast player app you use, you should be able to search Axe Hounds, and we should come up.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to, if you're just taking this right from the place I'm hosting it from. I mean, you don't have to worry about it, but you should be able to search us without a problem now.
And also, if anybody ever has any questions about any of the topics, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for you, Leaf, but I'm open to emails or private messages, or just feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Ideas are free flowing. Yeah, please, by all means, if there's something you think, if you got, I don't know, maybe it's a discussion that you're ready to have, and we'll bring you on. I mean, it's really that simple. This is a community, so I definitely don't want it to be just Chris and I up here all the time.
No, that would get boring.
Yeah, right.
Like, look at these two guys just trying to run everything.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's definitely not what's going on. So, all right, with that, guys, thank you very much, and we'll be getting this uploaded later this afternoon.
Awesome.
All right, man.